My dementia brain mother-in-law fought me because I'm having a baby girl. After my mother-in-law hit me while I was pregnant because she thought I was cheating, I did a checkup on the baby. Baby does end up being alright in the end, even after my mother-in-law kicked me a handful of times while I was on the ground. So, this is where it turns for the worst. We are home, and my husband has been a rock, very supportive and comforting to me the whole time. We went no contact with my mother-in-law and father-in-law, and I genuinely thought he was on my side. I had come up with the idea to do paternity tests on our girls and send them to my mother-in-law to get back at her, and it seemed like a great idea. We got in contact with a lawyer and he suggested that we take the paternity tests through the court so we have it as evidence and then the results couldn't be contested as fraudulent/fake. That sounded great, right? Well, over the next few days my husband got more and more depressed. He started trying to get me to entertain the idea of minimizing mother-in-law's actions, and chalking up her behavior to old age. While I am aware that she's older, she's pretty sound-minded. I told him that she will be getting full screenings for her mental health when we go to court, and that while yes, she's old, she doesn't get to assault me and accuse me of horrible things and use her age as an excuse. If she's found to have some mental issues going on then I can deal with that, but that doesn't mean I ever want to be around her or have her around my kids. A few days go by and I'm nearing my induction day because the baby girl isn't making her entrance, and I find out that my husband has been talking with father-in-law and mother-in-law behind my back. We get in a big fight and he tells me that he still wants his mom to meet her granddaughter, and that we can put this aside until the baby is here. Then afterwards, once she's gotten to meet her, we can resume the legal issues. I am crying at this point as I thought he was supporting me through this, but in reality he caved in no less than 4 days to his mom. I reminded him that we have put in for a restraining order and no contact order and that he has now broken it by contacting them. His response? Well, the no contact order is issued to you, not me. And the restraining order hasn't been approved yet, so mother-in-law can come meet baby girl number 2 before we get approved without breaking any rules. All I could do was shake my head and cry. I put my foot down and said absolutely not, and I couldn't believe he'd let his mom around me or the baby after she could have killed one of us. He said that I was overeating, as the baby was not injured and she wasn't actually trying to hurt the baby, just me. What? She kicked my very pregnant belly repeatedly after she threw a snow globe at my head. We got in a huge fight about me not forgiving her and holding grudges and being unreasonable, and eventually he just left. Where'd he go? Yep, his mom's house is a few hours away. He then called me sobbing and told me that if I could see his mom right now I'd understand. Apparently when he pushed her while she was assaulting me, he indeed broke 2 of her fingers and she sprained her neck when she fell back into a shelving unit. She's laid up on a sofa in her living room, can't walk and in a severe depression. I should feel awful according to him. The least I could do is let her meet her new grandchild, and then figure out where to go from there. I'm so infuriated at this point, because not only has he retreated to his mom's house, he left me alone with our oldest daughter who is 2, while I'm supposed to be in bed rest, with effing stitches in my head and an 8-pound baby in my uterus who refuses to come out, and I am so exhausted. He doesn't come home for the next 4 days until I'm supposed to check into the hospital for my scheduled induction. My sister comes to watch my oldest daughter and my husband takes me to the hospital for the induction. We get set up and they are poking me with things, shoving arms up where they don't belong, pumping me with pitocin and waiting to see if baby will come. He mostly sat in the room on his tablet, as I was admittedly pretty cold/grumpy with him still and wasn't acknowledging him very much. Finally I started making progress with labor and things were going well, baby was starting to move down and I was nearing the point where I needed to push. He did end up putting his tablet away and trying to get more involved, and at this point I wasn't going to push the support away as I was literally trying to push a baby out of me with no drugs. Finally the baby started to crown and my husband looks at the baby's head, looks at the nurse standing next to the doctor and asks, "When do you do the paternity test?" I stopped mid-push, looked at my husband and screamed what the heck. The nurse was silent, looking back and forth between me and my husband. The doctor then looks at my husband and says, "Sir, we are here to deliver and take care of babies. If you have other personal relationship issues, you need to figure that out afterwards. We focus on baby and mom, this is not the place to ask questions like that." I immediately start crying hysterically and babbling stuff like it's not like that it's his baby, his mom is psycho and stuff. I am so mortified at the thought that these nurses and doctor now think there's a chance my baby isn't my husband's and there's no way I can explain the situation to them. I immediately felt judged by the nurse and couldn't help but feel like I had been robbed of a beautiful moment. My mind completely shut down and the short time between crowing and when the baby comes out ended up taking an extremely long time because of how distraught I was. I was so angry at my husband. I asked him how could he do that to me, how could he ask that in front of the doctor and nurses when he knows it's his daughter in it. Was my idea to do the tests in the first place? After the baby came out, I just held her and she was beautiful and perfect but I was so distraught. I couldn't look at my husband and I hate to admit this but I wouldn't let him hold her. I was just so angry. He left and when he came back about an hour later he said that his mom wanted pictures of the baby and he took out his phone and I smacked it out of his hand. He got angry and left. My sister had to pick us up from the hospital and took us home 2 days later. In my state you have to take the baby back in 2 days after being home to do tests and a checkup to make sure baby is maintaining weight and that there's no obvious signs on neglect. So we took her in for the check and then went to a clinic to do the paternity test the same day. The next few days at home were awful. I can't even look at him, and he has avoided being around me or the baby for days. He barely has even looked at her, and is practically ignoring our oldest daughter. We got in a fight because I was trying to breastfeed the baby and my oldest daughter was crying because Netflix wasn't working and I started crying because I was so overwhelmed and he just looked at our daughter and said mommy didn't pay the Netflix bill because she's mad at grandma. I yelled at him to not say crap like that to a child. He said he just thought I didn't pay it because his mom uses our account at her house. I just forgot to pay it. It had nothing to do with that. He made several comments to our daughter over the next few days like daddy's going to go see grandma, you can't come because mommy hates grandma. Then leave me with a hysterical 2-year-old and a newborn. I'm not going to lie, I know that I'm dealing with crazy hormones and this is a horrible patch, but I seriously considered telling him I wanted a divorce right there and then. He left. I tried my best to cool off but I couldn't. I have actually convinced myself that I want a divorce over his behavior. Am I going crazy? Is this enough to seriously consider leaving him? We got the results for the paternity test 3 days later, and for anyone who ever doubted me, y'all can't ride with mother-in-law to crazy town. He's the father. He cried and told me he never doubted it and that he knew he was the dad. I told him that we would do a second test on our oldest daughter and that I was going to start packing our stuff and I was going to go move in with my sister. He bawled and said he didn't need one for our oldest daughter. I demanded we take one, as I would want it as proof for court whenever we get to have my case heard. I told him that I never cheated on anyone in my life including him and how much it hurt me that he said that in the hospital room and made the nurses and doctors think he doubted our daughter at all. He tried to apologize and hug me but I pushed him away and told him he should leave while I packed up some things. My oldest daughter, my baby and myself are now staying at my sister's house and he has told me that he refuses to take the second paternity test for our oldest daughter and is going to make his mom write out a very long apology letter to me. He wants me to come home but I just can't even look at him the same. I feel like all the love I had for him has been ripped away and I feel so angry towards him. I'm just trying to take care of our girls but he won't stop calling me. I told him he can see the girls anytime he wants but he can't take them near his mom and she is not allowed to be around them at all. I'm going to give myself a few weeks to sort out my feelings, but is this not enough to justify a divorce? I don't exactly want to go through with a divorce but I really just can't even look at him the same, and I don't know how I could ever get past this.